They say you can't fight gravity, but I tried. I told them that cliff would never hold another season of rain, that it was cracking from the inside out. Karen laughed, said I was paranoid, said progress couldn't wait. Now her $5 million mansion sleeps at the bottom of the bay, and the sea finally got the last word. I live on the edge of a small island off the coast of Oregon, the kind of place people forget exists until a real estate drone flies over it. My grandfather built a dock here with his bare hands. My mother patched the shack 3 times after every storm. To me, this land wasn't property, it was inheritance memory carved into rock. Then one morning, a white HOA van rolled off the ferry and a woman in heels stepped out like she owned the tide. She called herself Karen Chair of the Coastal Beautification Committee, clipboard in one hand, latte in the other. "You're sitting on wasted potential," she said, waving toward the cliffs like she was choosing curtains. "Imagine luxury viewing decks a shared amenity for the community." I asked if she was lost. She smiled like that question was beneath her. "We're modernizing the area," she said. Behind her, 2 guys launched a drone. It buzzed over my roof, mapping everything I'd ever called mine. That was the start. Within days, she came back first with a county inspector, then an architect in sunglasses, then alone standing at the bluff like a queen choosing where to drop her throne. Rumors spread that she was planning a mansion, Mediterranean-style, glass walls, infinity pool pouring into the ocean. The HOA had passed a land modernization clause the year before, giving them limited control over adjacent undeveloped parcels. It was supposed to be symbolic. Karen turned it into a crowbar. I sent her every document I could find, old survey maps, erosion logs from the 50s, my grandfather's letters warning that the cliff was hollow beneath the limestone. None of it mattered. 2 weeks later, I got a letter with the HOA seal, Parcel 9C, falls within transitional governance. Minor non-commercial development permitted pending inspection. Signed, Karen Ditt. "Minor development," I muttered, staring at the blueprints she'd stapled to my fence. A 3-story palace. That night I sat alone at the kitchen table, the sound of the waves hitting the rocks. That's when I realized it wasn't about land. It was about power. By the time I walked into the next HOA meeting, the room already smelled like entitlement and bad coffee. Karen sat at the headbinder, color-coded like scripture. "All in favor of subsection 12B," she said. Hands shot up, no questions, no debate. I tried to explain what the vote meant, how it rezoned my island, but most of them thought they were approving sidewalk repairs. When the meeting ended, I felt invisible, like I was shouting underwater. Then came the machines. Barges unloaded cement mixers, backhoes, crates of marble tile. They didn't bother with permits. Karen stepped off one of the boats in a linen suit, smiling like a movie star. I called every agency I could, county zoning, coastal commission. No one answered fast enough. She built faster than the law could breathe. Days blurred into engine noise and dust. At night, I'd stand on my dock watching her workers pour concrete into a cliff older than any of us. One morning I found a letter taped to my door. "Cease harassment of approved development." Signed HOA. Harassment because I took photos of my own land. I started doubting myself. Maybe I really was that bitter old veteran everyone whispered about. Maybe this was progress, and I was just in the way. But then I found my grandfather's deed ink, faded but still legible. "Let no one build on the cliff. She gives, but she does not keep." He knew, and if he could fight tides with a rope and prayer, I could fight this with proof. I gathered drone footage, soil tests, photos of cracks widening every week. I even mailed a report to FEMA. Still, Karen brushed it off. "Rebar doesn't stop gravity," I told her. She smirked. "You're just jealous of people who build something that matters." The rains came early that year, just a soft drizzle enough to make the bluff bleed clay. I saw the first crack in her patio tile running like a vein toward the sea. I emailed her the photo. No response. Instead, more trucks, more concrete, even a retaining wall 3 feet thick right on the cliff's edge. I went up there to confront her. She turned sunglasses on, though the sky was gray. "Do you harass every woman who builds a house, or just me?" "This isn't about you being a woman," I said. "It's about you being reckless." "You're clinging to the past," she snapped. "I'm building the future." Then the future's about to fall into the ocean. 2 days later, construction stopped. Maybe she finally saw the fractures crawling up her foundation. The silence felt heavy, like the island itself was holding its breath. I flew my drone under the overhang and saw the tension fracture a horizontal crack slicing through the cliff's belly. That wasn't erosion. That was a death sentence. I sent the footage everywhere. Geological boards, state agencies, local news. Only one person replied, Alyssa, a young reporter who'd heard rumors. If this is real, she said, it's huge. I thought maybe finally someone would listen. But 3 days later, the paper printed a glossy puff piece. Bluffside Beauty, HOA's vision for tomorrow. Karen on the front page, golden hair, perfect smile. That night, an anonymous note appeared at my door. You're making trouble for the wrong people. Drop it before you regret it. I burned it then, sat awake listening to the wind slam against the windows. The island groaned like something alive, something angry. Then came the storm. Not a hurricane, just 12 hours of relentless rain. When morning broke, I took the boat out. Half the patio was gone, a jagged scar where the earth had split open. Karen stood barefoot at the edge, hair plastered to her face, staring down at the ocean. You didn't listen, I said. She turned, voice shaking. Get off my land. But it wasn't her land anymore. The waves had claimed it. By noon, HOA lawyers showed up accusing me of sabotage. Said my unauthorized monitoring equipment destabilized the bluff. I laughed, told them gravity didn't need my help. But Karen wasn't done. She spun it into a narrative I was the bitter old man who couldn't accept change. The board backed her, issued threats of a $5 million lawsuit. I almost gave up right then. What's the point of being right if nobody cares? But Alyssa came back, eyes wild, folder in hand. I have everything she said. Emails, deleted footage, forged permits, even payment trails. Let's end this. 3 days later, the story aired on Channel 5. Greed Falls. How an HOA built a mansion on a lie. Drone shots of the fractured cliff side by side with falsified geological reports. My voice played over the footage. You can't buy stability. You can only borrow it until gravity calls your debt. The video went viral. Karen disappeared from meetings. Her allies started resigning. And then nature finished what it started. It happened just before dawn. I was drinking coffee on the dock when I heard a deep rolling thunder from underground. The island shuddered, birds exploded into the air. Then came the roar. The whole western cliff folded in on itself, concrete snapping like bones. The mansion, every wall, every glass panel slid into the sea in one breath. One moment it existed, the next it was gone. When the dust settled, the horizon looked cleaner somehow. I didn't cheer. I just watched the waves swallow the last reflection of her windows and thought, she built on borrowed time. By sunrise, the authorities arrived, Coastal Commission police, news choppers. They didn't need my testimony. The evidence was floating right there in the bay. Within days, the HOA was under investigation. Karen's permits revoked her contractor's license, suspended the board, dissolved in scandal. They called it negligence. I called it consequence. I haven't seen Karen since. Some say she fled to Florida. Others say she's still fighting the insurance company that denied her claim. Doesn't matter. The cliff already judged her. Now, when I walk that edge, I can still see the outline where her foundation used to be a scar against the sea. I planted a single pine tree there. Not for her, not for revenge for the land, to remind it that someone listened this time. Because in the end, the earth doesn't care about titles or bylaws or property lines. It only remembers the weight we put on it, and eventually it lets go. Lesson. You can ignore the warnings, rewrite the rules, even buy the votes, but you can't outvote gravity.